Hi, good afternoon everyone. This is Mohan. I welcome you all to this webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to learn how to use or how to set up Kredily, how to set up your payroll in Kredily and how to process salaries and how to release your salaries every month. And this session is going to be specially on the payroll module of Kredily as it is the payroll time as most of you guys will be processing payroll today or tomorrow. So we'll be concentrating on the payroll module of Kredily. And if you have any questions, please do write your questions in the chat section. I'll be taking up your questions after the session and I'll be answering to all of your questions. I will also share my details if you would like to contact us. And before we begin, I would also like to mention that Kredily's mobile application is available in Play Store. I recommend all of you to download Kredily's mobile application. And while I'm doing this session, you can also open your mobile application and refer to everything that I'm mentioning in this session. So let's get started with the webinar now. Firstly, I'll navigate to the payroll module from the dashboard as the entire session is going to be about payroll. So I'll be going into the payroll module and I'll go to the advanced settings tab. So as we are going to set up the payroll as well, it's important that you define your payroll aspects in Kredily so that the system can understand how the payroll has been taken care of in the rest of the financial year previously. So I'm going to the advanced settings module. Here you will just have to do the basic settings like your pay frequency, your pay cycle, your payout date, your date of joining cutoff date, everything you need to enter. And then you can include or exclude the weekly offs for your organization. And you can allow your employees to look at their tax projections and tax computation. It's just a yes or no thing. You can turn it on or turn it off according to your preference. And the next option is your PF and ESI settings. And here you will define how PF has been calculated in your organization, how it has been calculating in the past as well. You can define that over here. Make sure that you have turned it on with an effective date. And here you will get an option to choose your PF as 12% of basic or 12% of the entire gross salary except HRA, or you can add a fixed amount. And you can also add a custom formula if you want to select components and then say 12% of that or 15% of that can be done. And you also can enable the statutory minimum ceiling. When I say statutory minimum ceiling, a lot of companies would want their PF to be just 1,800 rupees and not more than that. In that case, I would recommend you to keep this option on. You can make this as LOP dependent or independent as well. You can include or exclude the employer PF contribution in the CTC. And there is an override option, and I would recommend that you keep this on all the time. This will help you to change PF for a particular employee if required. And the last option in PF is to include the admin charges of PF in the employee CTC itself. You can turn it on, turn it off depending on your preference. I'm not going to turn it on. The next option is your ESI settings. ESI is going to be 0.75% of the gross salary for an employee, 3.25% of the gross salary for the employer. It's always on 21,000. You can't change it. All you can do is you can include or exclude your ESI contribution from the employee CTC, and the individual override option can be turned on or turned off. I would again recommend this to be turned on. Then you get this overview option where you can see your employees' entire PF and ESI details. Here, by clicking on the edit option, you can also add the PF number, the UAN number, EPS number, and everything else as well. And if you want, you can manually add the same details by downloading the Excel sheet for the entire organization in one go. And the next option is your Pfpt settings. Nothing much to understand here, just turn it on and make sure that you are adding the work location for all your employees so that according to the location your employee is working in, the professional tax will be automatically calculated by the system. Then the next is your declaration settings. Here you can open a declaration window for your employees, wherein your employees will get an option to submit their income tax declarations so that their tax deduction can be reduced. Now you can make it as monthly or as yearly. I'm going to keep it yearly as most of the organizations keep it yearly as well. And I have selected my window as 1st of April 2021 to 31st of December 2021. And I've applied this to the entire organization. If you want, you can apply this to selected employees as well. But even if you are applying it to the entire organization, this will be applicable only to those employees who's having a taxable income. So nothing to worry about. Apply to all option here. And you can either make the proof submission mandatory or you can keep it optional as well. I'm going to save this. So the next important option is to create your components. Here system will give you an option to create all types of components, your base components, recurring components, variable and ad hoc components. As your base components are also the statutory components, you cannot exclude them from any salary structure. At least if you have full-time employees in the bucket, you cannot exclude base salary components. Then your recurring components, these are the components which will reoccur every month. That's why we call it as recurring. These components are going to be a part of your salary structure every month. We have already created most of the components that are used by mostly all companies in India. But if you want to create some other component according to your preference, you can always use the create component option. Just click on it and you will be able to create an option here, and there is no limit for it. You can create any number of components you need. But if you would like to edit one of the components that are already created in the system, you can just click on that component. So now I've named this component as extra allowance. You can rename this as whatever you want as per your preference, and you can make this as an allowance or as a reimbursement or as a contribution. Now I'm going to keep this as an allowance. Do you want to include this in your CTC? Yes, of course I want to include this in the CTC. If you want, you can turn it off. Proof required? No, I don't need proof for this, as this is an allowance. I do not require proof. Should this be taxable? Yes, it should be taxable. But for whatever reason, if you don't want this allowance to be taxable allowance, you can turn it off. And individual override, I always suggest that you keep this on because this also gives an option to you to edit this component's value for a particular employee if required. Then you can keep this as a loss of pay dependent value or loss of pay independent value. This depends on your company's settings. Now you can add the value for this component by just typing the value here. Now let's say I want this value, the component's value to be 25,000 a year. This is the flat value. Or you can also put a formula here. For example, I'll say I want this component to be 10% of my CTC. So for example, if my CTC is 10 lakh rupees, this component's value will become 1 lakh. Automatically system will calculate this. Or you can keep this as slab wise as well. So now I'm creating a slab wherein I'm mentioning if my salary lies between 0 to 3 lakh rupees, then this component's value should be 45,000. And if my salary lies between 3 lakhs to 5 lakh rupees, then this component's value should be 35,000. And if my salary lies between 5 lakhs to 10 lakh rupees, then this component's value should be 25,000. So like this, you can create a slab, and according to the slab, you can give a different value as the value of this component. Now I'm going to keep this a flat value. I'll say 10% of CTC, and I'm going to save it. Right. So this component is saved. Likewise, you will also create any number of variable salary components if required. Now, variable salary components, by definition, it means these are the components which will vary month on month. It could be there. It can also come every 3 months, every 6 months, or once in a year. So variable component itself means, like the name itself tells, it's a variable thing. That means this month this component could be 0 for me. Next month this component could be 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, depending on a lot of factors that my HR will be deciding. Now, a very common example for this is your annual bonus or your festival bonus. So, as we had Diwali last week, we had given a festival bonus for all employees. Of course, a lot of companies will do that. Mostly all companies will do it. So now I've mentioned this component's name as festival bonus, Diwali bonus, and I'm going to make it an annual component. If you want, you can make this a half yearly component as well. In this case, I'm making it an annual component, and I'm going to give this component add this component in the month of October. So now you don't have to add it manually. If you just define the month over here, the system will automatically add this component for the month of October for your employees. Now, do you want to deduct income tax for this component on that very month, or do you want to distribute this tax across the rest of the financial year? Is an option that you need to choose. But any earning component or most of the earning components will be taxable, so please pay attention to this, or check if this has to be taxable or not as per your settings, and then define this component. Again, I'm going to give this component a flat value of 20,000 rupees. If you want, you can change it to slab wise as well. I'm saving this. And the next option is your ad hoc components. This is where you will be able to create an ad hoc earning component or a deduction component. Ad hoc means this is an out of the box component. That means you have not defined this component in the CTC. This component is not included in the CTC, and you're giving an ad hoc or a random value to your employee as an incentive maybe, or as a joining bonus, or as whatever it could be. Yeah, if you would like to give an ad hoc component to your employee as a salary, as an extra earning, you need to first create the component here. Again, we have created most of the components that are required by a lot of organizations, but if you want to create a new one, just click on create component, give it a name, new component. I want this component to be taxable, and I want ESI to be applicable for this component. Save it. And likewise, you can create component for your ad hoc deduction as well. You can have different or multiple ad hoc deduction components. For example, your miscellaneous deductions or excess salary adjustment deduction, loss to company deduction, salary advance deduction, a lot of things. So you can create any number of components you want, but we have already created things that are required by most of the organization. Then the next option is your payout settings. This is where you will add the bank details of your employees. By just clicking on the edit option, you will get an option to add the bank details, IFSC, your bank name, your account number, and everything. If you want to add this in bulk for all employees, just click on the import button, download the Excel sheet, and upload it here. And one more thing I would like to mention, every single thing that you see in the payroll tab, for example, your ad hoc components, or your payout, your payslip, or your PFESI, or it could be your variable components, everywhere you will get an option to import that in bulk. Okay, you can download an Excel sheet, put all the details in the Excel sheet, and upload it. Then the next option is your payslip settings. This is where you can choose one of the payslip formats that are available. We currently have 8 different payslip formats. You can choose whichever suits the best for your organization. And the last option in your settings tab is your Kredily or your bank integration tab. This is where you get an option to integrate your bank account with Kredily. Because of this one option, your entire payroll process will become so easy and so less time consuming, because this also gives an option to release the payout through Kredily itself. With this, you can also avoid sending multiple Excel sheets to your bank and enter multiple OTPs, which is very, very cumbersome and very, very time consuming. You can avoid all of this if you have an ICICI bank account, or even if you don't have an ICICI bank account. Kredily gives you an option to create a virtual wallet in Kredily through which you can release the payout. So this is available for all users of Kredily without any extra cost. If you need more information about it, please feel free to contact us. I will be sharing my details, my number, and my email ID towards the end of this webinar. Please feel free to contact us if you want to discuss more about this. But I would recommend all of you to use the bank integration option in Kredily. Even if you do not have an ICICI bank account, you can create or you can use the Kredily's virtual banking platform through which you can top up your wallet and release the payout directly from Kredily itself. Then after that, you also get a declaration tab here. This is where you can see which employees submitted their tax declaration and what has been submitted, what has not been submitted, should you approve it or not approve it. The entire details will be displayed in the declaration tab. And then I'll come to the setup payroll section. And here, again, system is giving me an option to set up the payroll in a short method. I wouldn't go for this option because we have already set up everything in the advanced settings option. So now what I will do is I will create the salary structure using all the components that we have created. As you can see, I've already created a lot of components. Now let me create a new one. So just click on the create new salary structure option, select the regular salary structure and create a salary structure. So now I've already created multiple salary structures here. So I'm going to create another one. I mean, creation is done. So let me add all the components that are required. I'm going to name this component as festival salary structure. I'm just giving a random name here. Now I'm going to make basic as 40% of CTC. If you want, you can keep it as 50% as well, or you can put a flat value. And I'm going to make HRA as 40% of basic or 50% of basic. Or you know what, let me keep it a flat value here. I'm going to keep this as 2 lakhs. Okay, PF is system calculated, ESI is system calculated, and same with special allowance, which is actually a balancing amount. Now I will add all the components that are required. Now let me add a uniform allowance, and I will add vehicle allowance, and I will add medical bonus. So this is my salary structure. Now my salary structure has been created. These are the components I have in my salary structure: basic, HRA, PF, medical allowance, vehicle allowance, uniform allowance, ESI, and special allowance. Now once this is done, I'll go to assign salary structure. Now I want to assign this salary structure to this employee, Varun. He already has a structure, so I'm just deleting it just to demonstrate this to you. Now I will select this employee Varun, and I will go to assign salary structure, select the salary structure. I'll make this effective from the 1st of November and apply it. So now you can create structures, assign salary structures to multiple people in a single go. You can select all of them here, or you can select the entire organization if you want, or you can select designation wise or department wise or location wise if you need. And once the structure is assigned, the last option is to run payroll, and this is where, as an HR administrator, you should validate a certain information before processing payroll, and system will let you know everything you need to know about any employee or all employees in your organization before you process payroll. Now what I'll do is, first of all, the overview will be shown by the system, and then system will also show how many employees have been absent for whatever number of days, and how many employees are logging in regularly, how many employees are having a loss of pay. Every information will be shown by the system. As you can see, Varun is not present for 26 days, so there is a loss of pay of 26 days for Varun. So now let me just tell the system that I don't want to deduct any loss of pay for this employee, and I'm going to save this. Oh, sorry. So I've already processed payroll for this employee for the month of October, so I'll do the same thing for November. So November, there is no loss of pay at all. So I would like to have this information like this. But if you want to give loss of pay to any employee, you will get this option of editing it. As you can see, there's a pencil symbol towards the right side. You can click on that symbol and give any number of loss of pay to your employees. I'm giving 2 days of loss of pay for this employee Rahul, and I've saved it. And likewise, system will also show how many employees have applied for a leave for this month, and is it approved or rejected, or it's still pending. Everything will be shown. So Anil and Vishwanath have has applied for some leaves in the month of November, so I'm able to see that. And then system will also show the list of employees whose salary has been revised. I have not revised anybody's salary for the month of November, so the list is empty. And system is also going to show how many employees are going to get a variable salary component. I do not have anybody with a variable component, so it's not showing anything. And here, if you want to add an ad hoc component for any employee, you can select the employee, choose the ad hoc component that you want to give, and save it. You can import this in bulk as well. As I said, you have the import button in every single option that you get in the Run Payroll tab. And then you have a salary hold section where you can hold or release your employee salary. As you can see, I have held Aruna's salary for the month of November. If I want to release it, I can just click on the edit button, I can release it. Or if you want to add any other employee to the salary on hold section, you can add the employee over here. Just click on add employee and enter the employee's name and put it on hold. I'm not going to, or let me add it. So I'm going to hold, okay, this employee salary has already been processed, so it's not giving me an option, but you get the point. So you can hold your employee salary by just adding them here. And then the last option is to override your income tax or your professional tax. Actually speaking, you don't have to do this because system will calculate income tax and professional tax accurately, precisely by itself. You don't have to do this, but for whatever reason, if you would like to edit it, if you would like to override it, you can click on the edit button and select the income tax that you need to deduct for all of your employees or any one employee or few employees for this current month. And same goes with your professional tax as well. I'm not going to make any changes because system has calculated everything accurately and I don't want to disturb that. And once this is done, you get your salary sheet. This is the salary sheet for the month of November. Now you can process payroll for the entire organization by selecting all employees in one shot, or you can choose your employees and process payroll. I'm selecting the first 3 employees here. What I'm going to do is I'm processing payroll for the first employee only, and I'm going to come back maybe after a couple of days and then process payroll for the rest of the employees. So this is called as batch processing, which we have made available for all users. And this is a very handy feature where you get a chance to process payroll for a few employees today and for the rest of the employees after a couple of days. This happens in most of the organizations wherein they don't want to process salary for the entire organization on a single day. They would like to process salary department wise or designation wise. So if you are one of those organizations, you can make use of this feature. Just select your employees and process payroll for them individually or group wise. So now I processed payroll for this first employee, Varun. Yeah, so Varun's payroll is processed. Now let me also generate payslips for him. I'm selecting him and I'm generating the payslip for him. Payslip also have been generated. This blue icon here indicates that the payslip has been generated. Now the next option is to release the payout. So as you can see, I have processed payroll for Varun. So I'm also getting an option to release his salary. If I want, I can release the salary, but I don't want to do it. Of course, this is a dummy record over here. Otherwise, if you are doing it, you will get an option to select your employees and do the payout directly from the payout option. You can also download your statutory reports, your PFECR, your ESI Excel export, your consolidated reconciliation reports, your net pay consolidated report. Everything can be downloaded directly from your statutory and report options. So this is it. So setting up payroll and processing payroll every month, it would hardly take about 15 minutes to set up your payroll, and once the payroll is set up, you can process it by just spending about 5 minutes every month. So this is the entire process. Now if you have any questions, please write your questions in the chat section. I'll be happy to assist you. Looks like there's no questions. All right, thank you all very much for joining this webinar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my contact details and my email ID over here. Please do contact me if you have any questions about the entire product, or you can also call us on the support number, or you can chat with us by just logging into your Kredily account. You will get a chat option. You can chat with us anytime between 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and we are available from Monday to Saturday. Feel free to contact us. Thank you all so much for joining. Stay safe.